class that I've already created. In the check method, I need to implement my own custom code to perform the check. But first, I need to get some data from the material master. I need to get the minimum lot size quantity so that I can compare that to the order quantity. I can't do a select against the mark table directly. This is not allowed in embedded steampunk. I have to go through released objects such as the CDS view iProduct supply planning, which contains the minimum lot size field that I need. So here I do a select inner join between the importing table parameter of the check method, which contains the purchase requisition item data, and the iProduct supply planning CDS view on the material master. Then I loop through the result set and check the order quantity of each line item against the minimum lot size quantity in the material master. If the order quantity is less than the minimum lot size quantity, then I issue an error message for that line item. I'll go ahead and save and activate this baddie implementation. Now, if I return to the purchase requisition management application and change the order quantity, you can see that my check logic from my baddie implementation is being executed, and then I'm getting the error message that I issued in the if statement block. But that's not all. You can also debug your custom code in embedded steampunk. I can set my breakpoint as usual, return to the application, and trigger the debug session. And now I can step through my custom code and check values as needed. So, as you can see, it's now really easy to implement custom code in your S/4HANA Cloud system, leveraging the embedded steampunk functionality. Not only can you implement baddies, but you can also code full-blown business applications in S/4HANA Cloud. Not with classic abab, but in an upgrade-stable, cloud-ready way, and leveraging the abab RESTful application programming model. So I guess it's time for me to head to the showers before dinner, so I hope there's some clean towels since no one seems to know how to do any laundry around here.
Looking good, Josh. Looking good. What do you think?
So I guess there's gonna be blue hair dye everywhere?
You're just jealous because you can't pull this off.
Whatever you say, Josh. You're wanted in the demo room.
Good. Now I can impress them with my demo and my beard.
Come on, Josh.
All the other housemates hate me because I am so beautiful. But what are you going to do? So for my demo, I'm going to be working in the SAP Business Technology platform. I'm going to show you a couple of things: how to change the SAP eventing to use SAP Event Mesh, and how to add in SAP CI/CD. Now, the Kima dashboard that I'm going to use is running in my already established Kima environment. I already added all the enablement for everything from Cloud Foundry to Kima before I set this up. But now that I go into my namespace, I'm going to want to work in a new namespace called TechEd Josh. I search for that just to make sure it's not available already, and it doesn't come up, so I click Add New Namespace. After that, I type the name TechEd Josh, and I click Create. Once that's done, I can go in and see that I've got my resources are available. There's nothing running yet, but we're going to add some stuff from the Service Management Catalog. So let's jump over to the catalog and let's search for Event. Once we do that, we'll see Event Mesh pop up, and I click on that tile, and I'll be able to then add Event Mesh into my SAP Kima namespace. So, looking down here, I can see that I've got some code that I put into my text editor earlier. It came from a help document. It lets me map out what I want to use in the parameters. So I click Add Parameters and I paste that code. And now if you scroll up, you'll see that the namespace that I'm using is going to be referenced TechEd Josh. So I've got that established so that when we're using the eventing, we know that the eventing name as TechEd Josh for this namespace is going to work correctly. It lets me add that, and it starts provisioning it. What's cool about the Kima console here, another thing that helps the life of developers even be easier, is that we've got status provisioning in blue. It would come back with an error if there was an error, and it would change to red. And hopefully it's going to come back green, which means we did everything right, and it'll say running. So we give this a couple of seconds, and we'll let the webhooks do their job, and the console will automatically update and say running if I did everything right. So 3, 2, boom, got it running. Now I need to establish a secret handshake between my namespace and anything I'm going to be talking to in the outside world. To do that, I look at my secrets. I don't have a secret established yet in this instance that's going to tie back to my namespace. So I click on the credentials and click Create Credentials. I see Agitated Antonelli. It's a random name that pops up from Kima. And now I take Agitated Antonelli as the secret that I want to edit. I find it in my list now. It is the first one available. And I click on Edit, and I scroll into the YAML file down to the metadata. Back in my text editor, I have a couple lines of code that's going to give me the actual space that I want to actually be manipulating. So if we look here at the labels in the Kima project backend, I can copy and paste that code in, put it into this YAML file secret, which is applied to the Kima space. And if I get my spacing correctly, I can hit save, it goes green, and now this secret is mapped to use SAP's event mesh. If I wanted to go back to using NATS, I would simply delete those last 2 lines of code I added. I don't have to delete everything else. And it's going to take that YAML file and say, if you don't see these 2 lines of code, use NATS instead of SAP Event Mesh, and vice versa. But that's not all we can do to help make a developer's life easy. Using Kima, you can actually integrate an app developer's CI/CD into Kima. Now, if I have a lot of apps and I want to deploy them and I want to maintain them using CI/CD, I have to stand up infrastructure, I have to go to another place to actually stand it up. In this case, Kima is going to allow you, without any other infrastructure, to go and do build and deploy in Kubernetes. So we've got the variables that we need to do to create a job here. I'm just going to create a new one real quick. Let's call this one TechEd Josh, which is of course my favorite name for today. And once I click TechEd Josh and I'm in my repository of Josh Kima, I can create this job. And once it's created, it's going to keep it for 7 days with 50 build items. So we've got the ability to manage how much people are putting into these different systems. Now it's up and running. I can see that I've got Josh Kima and I've got TechEd Josh. The CI/CD is going to now allow me to go in and edit some variables. Different things are available from the Kubernetes version that you're running. You could be using different Docker files. You could be using Helm, and what version of Helm for your deploy tool. So all these things are available to make the lives of a developer easier.
What do you want to do?
Oof, that's a good move. Yeah. I gotta think about that for a minute. Sure.
Hey guys, what do you think of this stylish new beard? Pretty cool, right?
Josh, do you mind keeping it down? We are trying to concentrate.
Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt the chess grandmasters. But Thomas, you're needed in the demo room. And when you're done, would you mind sweeping up the bathroom floor? I don't know who could have left a mess of hair there.
Sure, no problem.
Oh no, somebody should have made more coffee by now.
Someone should have.
I can't believe I agreed to clean up Josh's hair. I need to learn how to say no. And now I'm doing 2 demos because I couldn't say no again. Oh well, here we go. The thing about the cloud application programming model that my housemates just don't get is that they only know it as a tool to create services or model data. What they don't realize is that it has some great functionality to also make it easy to consume services and create service mashups and extensions too. So my task in the house this week was to extend a SuccessFactors Employee Central Personnel API with some new fields. And thanks to CAP, what might have taken me days of coding took only minutes. To begin, I go to the SAP API Business Hub, find the SuccessFactors API I need as my starting point, and download the EDMX specification file into a new empty CAP project. From the command line, I can use the CAP CLI to import the external service definition into my project. This converts the specification into CSON, or schema notation, and adjusts my project's package.json with technical configuration to connect to the service. It allows me to mock the service locally while I develop with data from a CSV file. Like most of the APIs you are going to find, this one contains a lot of fields. Overall, these APIs have to cover every usage situation. But CAP has this cool mechanism to extend a service and then mash up an existing entity. I'm going to take this entity from the external service and cut it down to just 5 fields. And in doing so, also change the name of those fields. We can then expose this remote service as our own with the reduced fields and even add a new middle name field
that will persist separately as part of our extension. Because this is a mashup of external and extended services, the generic service framework can't just serve it out. With CAP extension handlers and the embedded SAP Cloud SDK, we can make all that happen in just a few lines of code. When someone requests our new mashup extended service, it first will forward that request to the SuccessFactors API. CAP will then take care of the translation between OData v2 and v4, the renamed columns. It even makes calling the service as easy as writing a select statement and forwarding all the original request query parameters right into the remote service. Then, after we have all the remote data we need, we can use a nice parallel operation to look up the locally persisted middle name data to enhance the service. To the applications calling our extended service, they never know that we forwarded their request to a remote SuccessFactors system, or that it's actually OData v2 based, or that we reduced the service, renamed the columns, or added some of our own extended data to it. All they see is the final service with all the data they want and needed in one place. As the development manager of this motley crew, and a developer myself, I'm constantly tasked with trying to figure out how to increase the amount of new apps and enhancements we can deliver to the business. They constantly want more functionality than our team alone can deliver. This is where the trends with low and no code development have caught my attention. I'm obviously looking for anything that improves the developer productivity of my team, but also for ways to allow the business to build some of the content themselves. And while some of these tools certainly look accessible, I need to make sure I'm not unleashing developers that won't be integrated into our environment or our standards well. And this is why I got so excited by the new low and no code offerings from SAP. I'm going to start here in the new application development lobby of the SAP Business Technology Platform. I like that all my projects can be viewed in one location, regardless if they were created in the SAP Business Application Studio or in AppGyver. In fact, what my team has done is started with the Cloud Application Programming Model application from earlier that extends the SuccessFactors service. That was originally coded by one of the pro developers in my team via the SAP Business Application Studio with a full stack development experience. They can directly code in the underlying JavaScript or Java of the Cloud Application Programming Model. And they have access to lots of expert tooling and debugging, including command line interface via the embedded terminal. But this is where we start to grow the possibilities of who can work with us on this project. Going back to the application development lobby, we can open this exact same CAP project in the new low-code version of the Business Application Studio. It has a simplified interface with a graphical storyboard and guided editors. So someone who understands the data model, but not necessarily Java or JavaScript, could extend and finish the work that our development team already began. They can even preview and deploy the application without ever having to deal with the technical complexities like package JSON or MTA YAML files. But now that we have our service deployed, we want to develop a mobile UI. This is where AppGyver can be doubly helpful. There's many a back-end application developer that has little to no experience with front-end or especially mobile development. But AppGyver is such a simple tool that both professional developers with little front-end experience and business experts could both build flexible UIs. We start by importing the OData service endpoint, which we deployed from the low-code Business Application Studio. We can then drag and drop to design our UI and bind the controls with the dataset returned from the OData service. In minutes, we have a mobile-enabled application consuming our CAP service previewed in the web browser or directly on a mobile device. Needless to say, I'm excited by the possibilities here. We started the project within our development team and built the more complex part of the service consumption logic in JavaScript. Then a business domain expert was able to finish the data model definition using low-code tooling. Finally, a team member that had zero experience with mobile development was able to build out an iOS and Android UI in just a few hours. Hey, I'm gonna clean up that blue mess before we have dinner, but then you want to finish this game of chess?
I can't take any more of Josh's loud mouth. Ich brauche einfach meine Ruhe.
Finally, some peace and quiet. Josh just talks way too much. Anyway, the SAP Cloud Application Programming Model helps you build powerful OData services that can extend existing SAP services. But no backend developer seems to understand that even the best API is nothing without an easy-to-use UI. And this is why my demo shows you how to build delightful UI that establishes best practices that business users already know from other apps. And with the help of the flexible programming model for SAP Fiori Elements apps, I can do this in no time. The first thing we gotta do is to start a development server with CDS Watch and to see the metadata file that contains all annotations. We see some Fiori related annotations in here that we can use with the SAP Fiori Tools application generator to create a new list report object page based on this CUP service. So we go through all the steps of the wizard. For example, we define a module name. Here we choose personal LR for list report and all the other steps. And once we hit finish, the application generator will generate all the files we need in this project. Then we can open the web application and see our list report with no data yet. Next thing is we open the page map to edit the property of the list report table to initially load all data. This can be easily done, and once we change the property, the web server will reload, the web application will reload, and there we see our data. But we can do more cool things in the page map. For example, we can add a new section to the object page. There is another wizard that asks us for the section name, the section title that we can directly push to the i18n file, and also a fragment ID that defines the section. And we can jump directly to the code of this newly generated fragment. We see there is a text control and a button and a JavaScript file that contains the callback function that is triggered when the button is pressed. In this callback, we can import the message toast library and trigger a short message to greet everyone at TagEd once the button is pressed. Then we save the file, the application will reload, and we can hit the button to see our message toast in action. Awesome. Let's add another fragment and another JavaScript file via drag and drop to this project. You'll see that the fragment contains a text control that uses a custom formatter, and this custom formatter is defined in the JavaScript code, and it translates the nationality code to an emoji. You might have noticed that the nationality field is not yet part of our CUP service. So we change this in the CDS file and make sure the field is now available. So we see it in the payload here, that's great. And now we can switch to the manifestor.json file of the web application and add a new column to our list report that is based on this fragment or template. And we also say it's based on the nationality field. We save the file, navigate back to the list report, and there we see our new column. Awesome. And with just these few additions to a standard floor plan, we built a beautiful UI for our business users with little to no effort. Or have you ever built such a powerful web application in less than 4 minutes?
Hey, Katharina, have you seen that loud guy with the blue beard?
No, I haven't.
Okay, good. I'll go and set the table up for dinner. Also, it's time for you to head to the demo room. You are the final one to present today. Nervous?
Come on, why should I be nervous?
I don't know what Maro's problem is with Josh. He didn't know that he was coming into a house with 8 other developers. When talking to my teammates the other day, some of them mentioned that they're annoyed of the manual and repetitive tasks they have to do every day and would like to optimize those by using AI. But they do not know where to start since they're not a data scientist. Thereby, it's pretty simple to get started with, also as a developer. So let me show you that your first AI call is just around the corner and you can get it for free. In the Discovery Center, you get an overview of SAP AI technologies offered via the Business Technology Platform. There you find the AI business services, which are reusable and support you in automating corporate processes. They address common needs like to classify data records or customer service requests, or to automate your document information extraction processes. And if you want to build your own chatbot, then conversational AI is the choice for you. And with the newly released AI Core, you can handle the execution and operation of your AI assets in a standardized and scalable way. For the demo, I'll use the Business Entity Recognition service. It detects and highlights entities from text, such as an email. And besides training your custom model with your own data, it also comes along with pre-trained models which give us a quick start to machine learning models very easily. Well, to set up the service, I go to my global account in BTP and use the booster to speed up the time of setting up the service. And since I first simply want to test the service without having any additional costs, I'll make use of the free tier option that BER supports and allows us to upgrade to a paid plan very easy too. And therefore I'm choosing here the free instead of the standard plan. And once the setup is done, we have to make sure to download the service key, which we need now to communicate with the service. Now, since the service is up and running, we can finally start with the fun part and program our first AI inference call. Therefore, I'm using the Python Client SDK provided by the BER service that you can get from pypy.org. And by the way, we also offer this for the other AI capabilities mentioned before. Next, we get the service key that we downloaded previously and that we now need in the next step. Well, and to interact with the BER REST API, you need to first instantiate a BER API client object. The object needs few details such as the authentication URL, which we retrieve from the service key. And to post our first inference job, we use the pre-trained model, SAP Email Business Entity. This extracts the invoice reference number and the vendor ID from a text. And this is here the text we would like to get, or where we would like to get the invoice reference number extracted. And the text, the model name, and the model version we pass as an input into the post-inference job, and then post the inference job that will predict the inference number for us. Well, and besides the detail around the status of the job and which model were used, the response also contains the inference job ID. And this is what we need now to get the inference result. That's why we store the ID into a variable and then pass it into the method getInferenceJob that returns now the inference result for us. And the response now returns the prediction of the extracted entities. And here you can see that it extracted our invoice reference number 456789 with a confidence of 85%. And well, ta-da! You had your first day interaction with AI. And see, it wasn't so hard to get started with. And this is just the start. So to get more hands-on experience about the other AI technologies, I can only recommend you to explore the SAP tutorials and start your AI journey right away.
Okay, now it's time for coffee. This is unbelievable.
And that's it. 9 housemates, 10 fantastic demos. But before we go, let's recap. DJ showed us the power of the command line and specifically the BTP CLI. Vitelli acquired data using SQL on files capability of SAP HANA Cloud Data Lake. Michelle showed us Git command hooks to automate tasks. Kevin showed us the power of the AR using the SAP BTP SDK for iOS. Rich showed us extensibility with embedded steampunk with S/4HANA Cloud. Josh showed us 2 demos using SAP Kima for eventing with SAP Mesh and then adding SAP Continuous Integration and delivering. Thomas showed service consumption from CAP and then SAP's new low-code, no-code solution through the Business Application Studio and AppGyver. Marius used the SAP Fiori tools to build an enterprise-ready web app in less than 4 minutes. Katharina showed us that your first AI experience is just around the corner for free.
So, what a week it's been. When the developers entered the TechEd Code House, it was with a unique vision to create the 10 ideas that would improve developers' lives. And they achieved exactly that. And what's even more impressive, they managed not to fight each other. Thank you so much for joining us at the TechEd Code House. And thank you to all the incredible developer housemates. Until next time, goodbye.
Wow, what an amazing keynote and mixture of entertainment and deep technical content. So congratulations, very well done. I am joined here on stage by 5 members of our keynote team, and they are going to be talking to us about some of the highlights for them, and I'm gonna do just a quick introduction. So let's start off first by, please everybody introduce yourselves and tell us about what technology you showcased in the keynote. So let's start with you, Josh.
Thank you, co-host. So, as you saw, I'm Josh Bentley, and I use my name a lot. I also talked about Kima, and I talked about 2 things within Kima. But next is DJ.
Thanks, Josh. Yeah, I'm DJ, developer advocate with the rest of the team, and my topic was the BTP, the Business Technology Platform, CLI, command line interface, and how CLI tools in general can be super powerful on the command line.
Yeah, hi, my name is Katharina Schell. I'm the Chief Product Owner of AI Business Service, and what I showed is really like how easy you can really start with our AI Business Services, and also showing off that how you can use a free tier and how you can use the Python Client SDK.
Hey, I'm Kevin. I did the iOS stuff, ARKit, those kind of things.
And I'm Thomas, and I did the 2 demos because I can't say no to anybody, evidently. I did the SAP Cloud Application Programming Model consuming external services, specifically SuccessFactors API, and then showed SAP's new low-code and no-code experience using SAP Business Application Studio and SAP AppGyver.
Perfect. So thank you guys all so much. And again, so great to see all of you guys here. And Tom, let's start off with a question for you. So 10 big personalities, 10 different technologies. How did you find a way to weave this all together?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of challenges there. We wanted to build upon what we had done last year and have a broader scope. Part of the challenge last year is we wanted to show everything totally interconnected, and that both limited the scope of what technologies we could put in and maybe confuse people a little, thinking that you had to use all the different technologies every time, when really we were showing you a range of possibilities. This year we wanted to not have to tie everything together in a directly interconnected manner, but just show a variety of things that improve developers' lives. And how it really started is we sat down, we told each of the members of the team to think about their own daily work life and what was something that had been introduced new this year that really made their lives better, and just whatever they were passionate about, whatever development tool, technique, whatever, that they had discovered themselves this year, tell a story about it. And that was really the start of the keynote there.
Great. And yeah, awesome that you just allowed everybody to pick really what was helping them, right? And I think that's very powerful for the keynote, that they picked what was really improving their life and can improve your developer lives as well. Katharina, how about one for you? This is not your typical working team. So what was it like when you were approached to be a part of it, and what was the experience like?
Well, actually, I really liked it to being asked because I think several years back I was with most of them also working on TechEd itself when it was live at Vegas, and I really enjoyed it. At this time, I was in another team, in a HANA team, and this is where I really enjoy to be closer to the developers of the customers and really also get to know what their problems are, what they're struggling with. And now when they ask me, hey, do you like to join and do this? It felt like, again, being a little bit closer again to the customers, to the developers there, and also really showing them then, okay, how you can really use it. And this is, I think, the most important part always, to showing them how you can start with it, of using it. Of course, there are always great features around, but most of the time people are struggling with, okay, but how can I start it? And that's why when they asked me, I was directly saying of, hey, great, I will do it. You do not have to get me in. I directly say yes, and I really enjoyed it during that time. And it was hard sometimes, really, of recording the video itself, but in the end, it's really a great result, and I enjoyed it really a lot.
So they didn't have to convince you too much. It was an easy answer.
Not at all. Not at all.
Awesome. So DJ, we saw you cooking. What's the story behind that?
Yeah, I love cooking. I do all the cooking at home because I like it. It helps me relax. I'm very experimental. I don't really follow any recipes, and the housemates found that out as well this week. So that was a little bit of a surprise for them. But no, I do love cooking. I love coffee. I love all sorts of things to do with consumption, basically.
Yeah.
And so it was a natural fit for me to basically get to the chef's hat first.
Awesome. All right. So, Kevin, your name in the show was the passionate one. Who was the creative mind behind the names? Did you pick them yourselves? Were they self-selected? Or did they
I think at some point, Rich and Josh did sit together and thought about like what are the characteristics of each of us in our team, right? So it was basically coming from there. And I'm this type of person who gets emotional about certain things really fast, and also about like my favorite topic, iOS and mobile, and design and user experience. I just get really, really passionate about it, and I have a really strong feeling about certain things, and that's where probably the name is coming from.
Awesome. Thank you. And also, whose idea was it to follow the Big Brother theme? So I don't know who wants to take that.
I don't know who originally said it, but I think it was Vitaly, if I'm being honest. My memory is that Vitaly was the one who said it, but then I piped up and said, look, I like Big Brother. I watch it at home. It's like the thing in the background. I don't care if I miss it, but I watch it, and other people in my house don't enjoy it, and I do. So I had to kind of brief the team on what it was, and then there was an interesting moment when Rich was taking notes, and he texted me and goes, this is not what I want to talk about. This is not going to work. And then we said, no, it's global. It's a theme that applies to most countries on Earth have a version of this show where there are people living together in a house, and they love one personality, and for some reason they make it look like they're frustrated with them. But that's how this started.
You're missing out the most important part of that Josh made us all watch Big Brother just to get into the spirit of things. And
it was the worst.
That was the worst part.
We definitely have to apologize to Rich.
Yeah.
He watched several episodes and hated every minute of it.
Copious notes, completely missing the point that
that's
it's
totally
just supposed to be something you watch. I'm sorry, Kevin?
It's totally understandable that you hate watching it, right?
Depending on your personality for reality
I must
television.
admit, I love watching it. So I'm a fan of it as well. So.
There you go. Something for
Fresh.
everybody, just like the developer keynote.
Talking of Rich, there's a lot of people behind the developer keynote. The rest of the developer advocates. Also, we had Michelle as well as a sort of a developer advocate for the period, and the amazing production staff, including Thomas. I don't know where Thomas is over there. Made it all magic. But Rich really needs a shout out because Rich is the person who put this all together. Yep. He broke down all the barriers for us. He didn't force us to watch Big Brother, but he did everything else. So, Rich.
Yeah, we said he was our executive producer, our associate director, and our chief cat herder.
Yeah, what was the recording like? So just speaking of cat herding, I'm just interested to hear.
It was a whole lot of hurry up and wait. Those little segments, they're just, most of them were 15 seconds or so, just enough comedy to be a palate cleanser between all the demos and keep everybody interested, sew them together. but we would take 45 minutes to an hour to record each one of them, multiple takes, different angles. I think we all have a better appreciation for how hard movie and TV production is now. It was quite the week.
Yeah.
But it was also, as we've alluded to, there was a whole lot of our own personalities in there. And I kind of warned Thomas Grassel, our organizational leader, that we may need a little group therapy after having exposed all the underlying issues with the personalities on our team.
That's awesome. Cool.
I was acting the whole time. That's nothing like what I'm like in real life. So I don't know what he's referencing, but yeah.
And I think we really have to apologize to the whole crew because we are really not actors, and then maybe sometimes they had really a hard time with us because I never did this before, really being on stage. But yeah, so really thanks a lot to everyone who really supported us there and helped us there. So I really enjoyed it to work with everyone there. Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. I was just laying there and I did a one take. It was
did
perfect.
Have a hard job, yeah. I want to have that role, actually.
Yeah, the whole night.
So maybe we get kind of back into the content a little bit. So some of the demos were related to each other. I think specifically yours. So can you expand a little bit on those?
Well, there were a couple that naturally built on each other. Obviously, my two that were directly connected with creating the Cloud Application Programming Model Service and intentionally starting in the pro code development tools, but then handing that project off to a certain point and giving it to maybe somebody that would use a low-code tool in the form of the new low-code perspective of the Business Application Studio. And then finally giving that to somebody who was completely using a no-code tool, the AppGyver portion, to create the user interface. But you probably noticed, hopefully most everybody noticed, that Marius actually built on top of that same service, took the same service that we deployed to BTP, and he built using Fiori tools, he built the Fiori UI on top of it too. So there was a little bit of a thread there with some of the service definition, consumption, and then the UI on top of it that did all flow together. And maybe it's a good point to point out that we've released all the source code behind all the demos as well. We did that right as the keynote was starting. We released them to the SAP samples repository on GitHub. So if you want to see how everything was built and how it is interconnected, it's all out there in open source for you to have a look at.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what my next question was going to be, is where can they find the full-length demos? So.
You know, if we have time later in the next hour, maybe I'll show the website and put that up for the audience.
Yeah, that would be great right after the panel discussion.
Glad to.
So we are coming up on the hour. We're going to be starting the live panel Q&A discussion, taking questions from the audience. But let's go ahead for now. We'll close this off and open up again for the live audience questions.